As you saw earlier today and again yesterday, so many claims of corruption at Eskom and even all sorts of arguments about who knew what and when they knew about it. There's the privately funded investigation, the revelation from the Eskom board today that it was told about this investigation. And then yesterday you saw the police commissioner say he knew about this investigation while the head of the Hawks and the police minister said they did not know about it. I mean, it's a lot more complicated even than that. Professor Sethulego Matebesi is the head of the Department of Sociology at the University of the Free State. Professor Matebesi, good afternoon to you. There is so much to look at here, but at the bottom of it, I think, are maybe two related questions. Do we believe that government wants to know what's actually happening at Eskom? And do we believe government wants to stop the corruption at Eskom? What do you think?
Hi, good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. A very good question to start off, because I've also seen, if I just very briefly bring in another level of confusion, and is to say, but why did the director not report that? And when somebody in a very key position, the chairperson of such a sensitive key institution, comes and says that, it raises questions about, and I'm responding to your question, whether our wants to deal with what is bedeviling, ethical governance, at Eskom. And it just raises a lot of questions instead of providing answers. If you look at how government has been handling this Eskom, the so-called director saga.
You would like to think that all of the law enforcement agencies would be on the same page, that they would want the same thing. I mean, we would like to say that about all of the ministers in the electricity sector as well. I don't know if we see that. I mean, it seems to me that this thing's become so politicized in a way that it becomes impossible to know where the truth lies.
Yeah, you are a journalist, Stephen. I'm an academic. And there are key issues that drives our profession, and the same needs to apply to our intelligence services, to our public leaders, our politicians, and to our security and police. And unfortunately, it seems as if, I don't know whether it is skewed priorities or whether their interests are lying somewhere else, but this should have been key. And I mean, especially after what the president had been, publicly pronounced to say they're now going to take the fight against corruption to another level. And yet, I don't think we have seen that. It's each time after every action, I strongly believe that there should have been pressure from civil society, and a lot of other things should have happened before our government, our institutions actually start initiate acting on something. And it's the same with this Eskom issue. I mean, forget about ethical governance and all the issues around where and when the director were supposed to have highlighted this issue. Fact of the matter is, he is touching on fundamental issues that has huge implications for the future of this country. And it's not something that we thumbs up. We are experiencing the impact, the negative, huge implications of load shedding. And it's...
Oh dear. Looks like we've lost Professor Matebesi there. Unfortunately, I think he's back now. Professor Matebesi, we lost you there for a moment. You were talking about the importance of this and the impact of load shedding on the country, partly because of this corruption.
Yes, and that's why I say perhaps based on that, our government, our institutions should have acted on that information. And I mean, the issues about the rater and why he has not, obviously shared this information at other platforms. That is something that Eskom, as his previous employer, can deal with. But fact of the matter is, the government needs to take South Africans into confidence. And how are they going to do that? It's to demonstrate that they are serious about fighting corruption. But all these, circling around very fundamental issues, for me, does not mean that we seem to have the political will to deal with corruption in South Africa.
In a way, it seems to me that Eskom's been a bit of a slow-motion train crash in lots of different ways, and we've sort of forgotten how, frankly, weird things have become. So we have claims from a CEO, he was a CEO and he made the claims of corruption. That leads to political point scoring, and Professor, perhaps, maybe this is just my observation, but perhaps this debate has become racialized to an extent as well, maybe. We have, at the moment, 800 members of the South African National Defence Force who have been deployed to protect power stations. These are not, this is not normal.
Yes, but if this was an issue of security, this should have happened a long time ago, because as far as I know, your power stations will also become your national key points. So that is understandable. But in South Africa, we still need to reach a stage where if somebody raises a point in a very respectful manner and you are not obviously incriminating other people without having facts, that is something else. We should not look at the race of the individual. Unfortunately, this seems to be the case also here. Yet once again, if you are black in South Africa and you will be racist, you are a counter-revolutionary. And if you white, then you are a racist. And that should never be the issue yet. The issue is about the future of South Africa. The issue is about a very key institution that provides a very, very sensitive service to South Africans. And I strongly believe that action should be taken. And action should not be taken once, private individuals have raised issues about it.
I wonder, and this may seem a strange question, but it's very important that we all agree on a common set of facts. I mean, one of the things that divides us is which facts we agree to on our past, for example. It's very unfortunate, but this is still the case. I wonder with Eskom if we may never agree on a common set of facts. If we don't agree on a common set of facts, we're unlikely to fix the problem. I mean, this shows you the impact of politics, unfortunately, perhaps, on Eskom. If we don't agree on what's actually happened, we aren't able to work together to fix the thing.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in, why would you need a minister of electricity if you already have another minister? And I think maybe this issue has been peddled in the public domain before. So that already gives you an indication that perhaps we haven't yet reached a stage where, the chief executive officer of this country can directly deal with issues of fundamental nature. And it's the same issue here at play. Why there are too many heads, and it seems as if each of these different heads have their own view of how to deal with some of the challenges of Eskom. And one can just hope that maybe in the near future, and I think the work that the minister has been doing of energy or of electricity, it's quite commendable. I mean, the public, all these press, conferences, announcements. But at the end of the day, South Africans want to see tangible changes, and that is the end of load shedding. And with so many heads, the question is, when are we going to see common ground in terms of that? But I foresee a situation that all these allegations by the rater, instead of getting the necessary attention, they will be once again, being dragged out and out. We've seen over the past 2 days, and even today, where some questions, which is fine. I mean, about the character of the rater is being asked, and for a typical, a layman, that should never be the issue here. The issue should be, but how are we going to deal with some of these serious allegations that is perhaps collapsing this giant of an institution? And that's where we should start.
The story of Eskom, in a way, is also the story of SOEs. We've seen so many claims of corruption. I mean, remember what we saw during the Zondo Commission, for example, the Commission into State Capture. There is so much to look at and how we stop all of that from happening again. And I don't know yet if we've learned lessons about how to stop this happening again at SOEs.
No, not at all. And in general, Stephen, the view was, if you look at how it seems as if we deal with such issues, by the time the Zondo Commission said, to a certain extent, the South African police had information about certain cases. There was no action on that. And yet you've got the Zondo Commission, and there is now an expectation that the government will act on that. But the problem is the government would have to act against its own. And that's where, once again, political expediency will come in. Instead of taking action against somebody, delay processes and all that. And it becomes a vicious cycle. And it's going to take a while because that has become part of the DNA of South Africans, where when action needs to be taken, it's a committee investigation, it's then back to parliament. But corruption is a crime, and a crime needs investigation, and then needs to be action. And not all these, discussions that happens in, fancy offices. Because at the end of the day, corruption erodes confidence in the government. Corruptions affect the bread and butter issues of South Africans.
Professor Sethulego Matebesi, thank you, Head of Department of Sociology at the University of the Free State. Do appreciate the time.